After most of the previous disasters in the Gulf region, hammers and saws, wood, concrete, and steel were elemental to the recovery. The way back from the BP oil spill will be led by the scientists, for they are the ones that will best understand what's happening in the complex and diverse ecosystems from the open waters of the Gulf to the marshes, bayous, and beaches inshore. There are legions of scientists already on the case, and more will join in the future. I sat down with Mark LaSalle, a scientist on staff with the Pascagoula River Audubon Center, for his thoughts in the wake of the BP oil spill. Checking on his particulars, I asked him if he was a doctor.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't call me doctor, though.
Not even on the lower third?
Oh, I don't care about that. Just don't call me.
All right.
What do you mean on the lower third?
Where you put the name.
Oh, yeah, it's fine.
The chiron.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right.
It's fine. The reason I say that is because it intimidates people, tends to.
Sure.
And they think you know a lot if you have a PhD. What a PhD should give you is a license to plead ignorance, okay, which is what I do all the time. I'm the director of the Pascagoula River Audubon Center here in Moss Point, Mississippi. And it's part of the National Audubon Society. And centers are the arm of Audubon that engages people and in communities and engaging on natural resources like the Pascagoula River here that we're sitting next to. Well, our big concern, of course, Audubon, National Audubon Society is focused on birds, wildlife, and the habitats that support them. No different coastal habitats to any other habitat anywhere. But certainly the oil spill has certainly direct repercussions to the marine environment where it happened and the nearshore habitats that where the oil has impacted and has the potential to impact. And of course our main concern is focused on birds because many of our coastal shoreline birds that nest here, that just finished a nesting season, that's a main concern for us there. But you know, there are many other birds that come out here and overwinter for us here, okay, on our shoreline. So this nearshore coastal marine estuarine environment is certainly important to a wide range of birds for a number of reasons. Our main concerns as this oil spill unfolded was that it hit right at the beginning of the key breeding season for our breeding coastal birds. Many of them that breed in colonies, our colonial nesting birds, things like brown pelican. Least tern on our front beaches here in Mississippi were just starting to nest. We just finished black skimmers, just finished completing their breeding season. And there's a host of others, many others, other egrets and other shorebird, again, birds that breed here during the summer, spring and summer months that are directly impacted by the oil spill. Now we tell people all the time that there's two ways really that they can be impacted. They can certainly be impacted as they're out there feeding in the environment, and many of them are plunge divers or dip down into the water and catch fish or other things that are in the water, mostly fish, that they feed on. They're trying to feed themselves. So certainly they can be exposed to oil from that perspective, directly. And oil is toxic to them, it interferes with their feathers, and of course they can die from that, and many do. But secondarily, of course, they're also trying to feed young during the breeding season. So whatever they're being exposed to is transmitted to the young on the nesting site. Now that's one thing. So there are direct impacts from actual feeding out there, and of course from feeding the young. But then secondarily, but equally important really, is the fact that it's not just the birds and the aerial animals that are being impacted by the oil, but it's also the fisheries and all the aquatic animals that are being impacted by this oil spill. So what are their main sources of food? Fish. So it's the food chain effect that we're concerned about, not just during the breeding season, but from here on. I mean, we really are only speculating as to the impact that this oil spill's had on the fisheries of the Gulf of Mexico that supports a humongous, or I should say large, concentration of birds, marine mammals, larger fish, any number of other wildlife that are out there. So it's not just direct impacts of the oil, but it's also the indirect impacts of the food chain that we're concerned about. And of course we started this oil spill at the time when the breeding season had just started. But it's not over. Even if this well is successfully capped in the next couple of days, that's wonderful. But we'll still have oil products around that potentially can impact a whole new set of birds that are migrating right now. We're at the very beginning of our fall migration. A lot of birds that have spent the spring and summer north of the coast, up into Canada and the Arctic Circle really, that are now starting to migrate back down. Some will stay with us on the Gulf Coast, some will migrate on to South America. They're going to be exposed to the oil if it's around, no different than the breeding birds. My favorite examples include things like white pelican. They don't, unlike brown pelicans, they don't breed here, but they overwinter with us in the same localities as brown pelicans do. Common loon that we think about Great Lakes in parts of Canada, and Wisconsin and Michigan, great birds. They come down and spend their winters out there in the surf zone. You know, there's the breeding population of birds that we're concerned about, and then there's non-breeding populations of birds that will spend the winter with us, and then again in the spring it all happens again, the migration starts. So as long as the oil is in the water, again, it can affect them directly by them interacting in the water while they're feeding, or indirectly from interruptions of the food chain and basically removing their source of food. And I will say this, nature is pretty resilient, okay, it is. Having said that, you know, if you, at some point in time, you're going to reach a tipping point where it could shift one way or the other. You know, and I'm a reasonably optimistic person, and I think that we're okay, but then there's so many unknowns in terms of exactly how much impact we've had, particularly on the offshore environment. We've seen the birds that have been oiled. We've hopefully have collected and been able to treat a significant number of them. We hope that an even larger number of them were able to avoid it, and only the lightly oiled birds might have recovered and been all right. We really don't know that either. But the big unknown is, what has it done to the offshore marine ecosystem that may not be obvious to us right now, but may show its face here in the next couple of months or years? We have no clue. That's the scary part.